Greetings and thanks for joining me. I'm truly glad you've tuned in. If you feel like hitting subscribe, know that it would mean more than I can say. But let's not waste time. Let's get straight into it. Colin Reeves didn't spiral. His life was torn apart in one devastating afternoon. The courtroom buzzed with low whispers and cold glares. A large screen displayed a barrage of damning visuals, fabricated truths, carefully stitched together. And at the heart of it all, his wife. Malene sobbed like a saint betrayed, each tear perfectly timed. Colin sat motionless, his aged hands knotted tightly beneath the courtroom table, eyes fixed on the judge while the screen played on. There was his face, his voice, uttering intimate filth to a woman he'd never seen before, a woman who didn't exist in his world. Malene, across the room, was radiant. Her hair flowed in soft golden curls, her navy dress expertly tailored, grief etched artfully into every glance. His name was dragged through falsified messages, deep fake calls, and fake bank activity. The court absorbed every second as though it were gospel. The judge gave him 2 weeks to prepare a defense. It felt more like a ticking clock toward his annihilation. With nothing left to lose, Colin turned to the only person he still trusted. Ari Mendoza, former soldier, now an independent cyber sleuth, skilled in peeling away layers of digital deception. Ari's workspace was organized chaos, monitors blinking, cords tangled, the quiet hum of digital warfare all around. Together they dived into the digital underworld, chasing the unseen hands that had constructed Colin's ruin. What they uncovered wasn't just an act of framing. It was a betrayal, crafted bit by bit. The forgeries were flawless. The voices nearly indistinguishable from real. The cryptocurrency paths led to shadows. The supposed mistress, Lacey Rhodes, was fiction, built from fragments, stock photos, dead web pages, AI renderings. Even worse, all alleged conversations occurred during times Colin could prove he was working marathon hours at Meridian Tech. "She isn't real," Colin whispered, shaking. But someone had engineered her. And Ari tracked him down. Vincent Locke. Mid-30s, sleek, arrogant, the kind of man who wore wealth like armor and babbled fluently in crypto jargon. Publicly, he was Malene's mentor, a figure helping grow her wellness brand into a profit machine. He appeared everywhere, in tagged posts, in selfies during strategy sessions, in gushing captions, excuses Malene had offered for months. "I thought she was building her dream," Colin murmured. "She was building the bonfire," Ari replied, "to burn yours down." They went deeper. Server logs, metadata footprints, synchronized social posts. It all pointed to Locke, and Malene wasn't being used. She was complicit. Surveillance footage made that fact undeniable. "They tried to erase me," Colin growled, his anger rising. The following week was surgical. They monitored Locke relentlessly. Bugs in his car, trackers hidden beneath his luxury vehicle. Microphones tucked inside designer sneakers. Colin changed, no longer broken, but sharpened. He shadowed his saboteur, watching, waiting. Then came the slip. Locke's voice echoed through a van speaker. "Make sure you cry when the judge looks at you, baby. They need to think you're the victim. Once this ruling's done, we're set. House, money, and zero baggage." Colin didn't crumble. He smiled. When the trial resumed, the atmosphere was heavier, not from temperature, but pressure. Colin Reeves was not the same man from 14 days ago. This time, his stare wasn't desperate. It was predatory. Malene remained immaculate, polished, poised, the picture of heartbreak. Her lawyer, slick and confident, delivered the grand finale. "Your Honor, we request dissolution of the marriage, full spousal support, and exclusive possession of the family home, given the trauma inflicted by Mr. Reeves." Judge Morrison turned. "Mr. Brennan, any response?" Before his exhausted public defender could answer, Colin stepped forward. Your Honor, I have a digital forensics expert ready to testify. Ari Mendoza. He's here today. The judge raised a brow. Go ahead. Ari took the stand with quiet intensity. He opened his laptop, linked it to the court display, and started his breakdown. The materials used to accuse Mr. Reeves weren't just misleading. They were fabricated. Using advanced deepfake tools, someone constructed entirely false video, audio, and text-based evidence. Slides lit up. Discrepancies in facial movements, mismatched audio frequencies, digital flaws frame by frame. Ari explained how the deception required detailed data from voice and facial recordings. Malene began to visibly falter. And what about the crypto transfers? Her attorney challenged. Ari clicked to the next chart. All transactions came from the couple's joint business account. Each one occurred during windows where only Malene had login access. Then came the final slide, a full intel report on Vincent Locke, website domains, payment logs, server access points. The courtroom gasped. Malene's hands trembled. This is absurd. Not absurd, Ari said. Listen. He played the clip. Vincent's unmistakable voice rang out, amused. She handed me everything, recordings, videos. I polished them. Once the divorce hits, she gets the house, the bank accounts. Then we vanish. Costa Rica, baby. The silence was crushing. Then the judge's gavel cracked through it. Malene Reeves, he said sternly, do you have anything to say? Her mouth opened, but nothing came. She turned toward Colin. I didn't think he'd actually... Enough, the judge snapped. Bailiff, detain Mrs. Reeves for further questioning. Mr. Locke is to be summoned immediately. But the moment was already upon them. The doors swung open. Vincent Locke strolled in like he owned the floor, dressed to impress, radiating smug confidence. Your Honor, he said smoothly, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I'm here to clear it up. Colin's pulse thundered. This was it. Locke took the stand, still self-assured. I broke no laws. I simply helped Malene elevate her online presence. That's all. But Ari hit play again. This time, Vincent's voice detailed AI manipulation, money laundering, and more. The arrogance drained from his face. That recording's fake, he yelled. Colin rose calm and sure. It came from your vehicle, in a public lot. No expectation of privacy. No warrant needed. And that's not all. The screens flared to life. Financial networks, server breadcrumbs and voice logs, proof of multi-state fraud, divorce scams, digital forgery, identity theft. Vincent went pale, tried to stand. Two bailiffs stepped in front of him. Vincent Locke, the judge intoned, you are under investigation for conspiracy, fraud, identity theft, and racketeering. As for Mrs. Reeves, your petition is denied. Both of you will be held for federal prosecution. As the handcuffs snapped shut, Malene looked back at Colin one final time. But he didn't return her gaze. She was already gone. Fear flooded her eyes. Colin, please. You have to explain. I never wanted things to end up like this. Colin's voice was calm, but it cut like ice. You wanted all of it. The moment you let him walk around wearing my face and destroying my name, you made your decision. Her knees gave way, collapsing under the weight of his words as he turned and walked out. Outside the courthouse, the rain had stopped, but inside him the storm churned on. What lingered wasn't anger. It had crystallized into something colder, sharper, understanding. He had been used, smeared, sacrificed. But the game had shifted. He was no longer a piece to be played. Back at the house, nothing had visually changed, but everything felt different. The lavender in the air still hung around, but now it stank of lies. Every surface echoed Malene's treachery. So he dismantled it all, literally. Gone were the photos, the furniture she had insisted on, her handmade candles, and the abstract art she claimed symbolized her growth. He stripped the place bare. What remained was a home that finally mirrored his new existence. Stark, honest, unflinching. No more fantasies, no more disguises. Weeks passed. When the damning audio surfaced, the story spread like wildfire, starting locally, then going national. Crypto swindler unmasked by husband. She framed, read one headline. Vin Locke, a seasoned fraudster tied to numerous schemes, had finally been caught. Colin's ordeal had become the breakthrough case. Federal raids were launched on Locke's assets. A new digital crimes unit formed, with Ari, now trusted by law enforcement, playing a major role. Sweeping arrests followed. The charges were extensive: fraud, ID theft, conspiracy, racketeering. Malene cracked quickly, turning over everything: emails, audio clips, system logs, in a frantic attempt to escape a lifelong sentence. Still, none of it could undo the destruction she'd left in her wake. She took a plea. 2 years in low-security confinement, 5 on probation, mandatory restitution, and a ruined reputation. But Colin knew better. Prison was the easy way out. One morning, a letter appeared, neatly folded, her writing unmistakable. Colin, I don't expect forgiveness, but I need to say I'm sorry. Prison gave me time to find faith, and with it, a harsh clarity. I hurt you. I know that now. I loved you once. Maybe part of me still does. If there's even a corner of your heart left for me, maybe, someday, you'll forgive me. Malene Colin read it with no emotion, no rage, no sorrow, just silence. He fed it into the shredder, watching the fragments fall like party streamers for a celebration that never came. That night, he sat outside with Ari, a bottle of aged bourbon between them. She wrote again? Ari asked. I shredded it. Good. She doesn't deserve a reply. Colin gave a quiet nod, his eyes fixed on the stars. You ever wonder if we spend our whole lives trying to be good men, good partners, only for a single lie to unravel it all? Ari topped off their glasses. You weren't the one who lied. You fought back. That doesn't make you good, it makes you dangerous. They drank to that. In the weeks that followed, more of Locke's crimes came to light. 17 men across 5 states, all affluent, all targeted and ruined, some publicly humiliated, others left broken in silence. Many never recovered. But because of Colin's stand and Ari's insight, justice found new footing. Old cases were reopened. Some of those victims reached out. You saved me, one said during a video call. I thought I'd gone insane. I thought I was alone. You showed me I wasn't the monster they made me out to be. Colin didn't answer. He didn't have to. Sometimes quiet was enough. He wasn't just enduring anymore. He was evolving. Eventually, his time at Meridian Tech came to an end, partly voluntary, partly as a public gesture of support from a company trying to make amends for their silence. He moved into consulting, gave talks on cybersecurity, mentored rising engineers on ethical tech, quietly backed legal nonprofits that defended fraud survivors. And whenever someone asked about the wedding band tucked away in his desk, he gave the same answer: to remind me how far I've come from who I was. Revenge no longer fueled him. He had already claimed his victory. The courts, the media, even the ones who once doubted him, they now saw what he'd always known to be true. But justice, he discovered, was just the beginning. Healing was harder, building a life not rooted in vengeance, but in purpose. So he turned toward something meaningful. Ari, after some hesitation, accepted Colin's investment and launched Sentinel Vale, a cyber defense firm. Colin became its first strategic advisor, reluctant at first, but fully committed in time. Together, they developed countermeasures against deepfakes, response protocols, training for individuals facing digital sabotage. Colin's justice wasn't in destruction anymore. It was in elevation. He rose, untouchable, while those who tried to erase him watched from the shadows. He bought land on the outskirts of Santa Barbara, 3 acres of solitude, a home with an ocean view. Succulents thrived in the garden. Each night he sipped scotch by the fire, wrapped in a peace he'd never known. He picked up painting again, something he hadn't touched since university. Not for fame, not for profit, for calm. Then the offers came. Interview invites, docu-series proposals, a Netflix deal offering 6 figures. He declined everyone. He wasn't seeking attention. He was learning how to be again. But peace proved temporary. 6 months after the final verdict, another envelope landed on his doorstep. Not from Malene, from a law office. They represented Natalie Brooks, another of Locke's victims. Her husband had been destroyed by Locke's schemes. Unlike Malene, she hadn't confessed. She'd fled, alongside Locke. They were caught in Panama. And for a reduced sentence, Natalie provided what Malene had never surrendered. Locke's hidden archives, email threads, voicemail transcriptions, chats between Locke and Malene, recordings of Malene ridiculing Collins' trust, mocking how easy it had been to lead him around like a clueless puppy. It broke him again, but differently this time. Not with grief, but with sharpened resolve. This time, he acted. He picked up the phone. "I want those files submitted to the Federal Claims Division," he told his attorney, "and I want her probation reconsidered." The lawyer narrowed his gaze. "So you want the court to impose a tougher sentence?" "I want the court to reconsider," Collins replied calmly. "If, after hearing her gloat about the harm she caused, the original decision, 5 years probation, still stands, I'll accept it. But the justice system deserves to see who she really is, who she's always been." The necessary documents were submitted. 2 months later, the motion was approved. A new hearing was scheduled. Malene appeared in court wearing the standard-issue jumpsuit, her wrists shackled. Collins said nothing. He let the recordings do the work. Clips filled with cruel laughter and chilling indifference. The judge, clearly disturbed, listened in silence. Without delay, the court revoked her probation. This time, she was sent back to prison. No early release, no leniency. Collins exited the courtroom in silence, a calm, composed smile on his face, the same expression he wore the day Vincent Locke was arrested. This wasn't about rage anymore. It was justice, methodical, grounded, irrefutable, not driven by emotion, but by truth. He didn't want revenge. He wanted the truth exposed, her truth, unfiltered and unmasked. That evening, standing on his porch with the ocean breeze against his skin, he didn't feel triumphant. He felt released. The next morning, Ari showed up. "It's over," he said. "No more trials, no more court battles. You're finally free." "Am I?" Colin asked quietly. "Or am I just remembering how to breathe?" Ari let out a soft laugh. "Maybe both, but honestly, I think you're stronger now than you've ever been." This time, Colin believed it. A full year had passed, a year since that fateful day in court when his world had imploded, and then, slowly, begun to rebuild. On the quiet morning marking that anniversary, he brewed his coffee as always, black, bold, unsweetened. No more pretending. No more performing. Sunlight poured over the clean lines of his new kitchen, lighting up the home he had rebuilt. One piece at a time, without her. Everything was calm, until the mail arrived. Hidden beneath bills and an unsolicited furniture catalog was something familiar. Another letter, same prison return address, same handwriting. Malene. He didn't open it immediately. He placed it on the table, sipping his coffee while staring out at the sea. He wasn't sure why he kept them. This was the 5th. He had never replied. The last one, sent weeks before, had been especially emotional, begging for him to speak on her behalf, asking for a single phone call. She said she was sorry. Said she had lost it all, her freedom, her money, her name, the carefully crafted persona she once clung to. Now she was asking for what she had once refused him. Mercy, Eventually, he broke the seal. Colin, I don't even know how to begin anymore. I'm not asking for anything. I just need you to know. I see it now. All of it. Every day I wake up with a heaviness in my chest that never leaves. I hear your voice sometimes in my dreams. Not angry, just disappointed. That's worse than any sentence. You didn't deserve what I did. I was selfish. I convinced myself you were the villain, so I wouldn't have to feel guilty for becoming one. I know you won't respond. I wouldn't either. But I had to say it. I remember everything, and I am truly sorry. Mylene Colin folded the letter slowly, neatly, and placed it back in the envelope. Then he slid it into the wooden box on his shelf. He didn't destroy it. Not out of forgiveness, not because he was contemplating any sort of closure, but because for the first time her words didn't touch him. She no longer had any hold. That afternoon, Colin hosted a small get-together. A few close friends, survivors, people who had also lived through Vincent Locke's wreckage and come out the other side. They laughed over grilled food, shared memories like passing drinks, and took quiet comfort in knowing they'd made it through. At one point, Scott leaned over and asked, "Do you ever miss her? Even a little?" Colin shook his head. "I miss the illusion of her, the version I made up in my mind. But that person never existed." Scott nodded. "That's the hardest part, right? Mourning someone who was never real." Colin raised his glass. "But what comes after? That freedom, that's real." Later that evening, after the guests had gone, Colin stood on his deck beneath the stars. He thought about who he used to be, before the betrayal, before the courtrooms, before all the deception. That version of himself was gone. In his place stood a man more resolute, more focused, a man who couldn't be broken by people like her anymore, a man who had become a threat to those who once believed they could destroy lives without consequence. He pulled out his phone and typed a brief message to Ari. "Let's take this global." Moments later, a reply came. "Already bought the domain, Sentinelvale International. Come. Time to save more lives, brother." Colin smiled. This wasn't revenge, this was legacy, and it was just the beginning.